The galaxy was quiet, but not peaceful, across the stars. Old wars still burned like forgotten fire. Ships drifted around empty planets, chasing memories of enemies long gone. Humans and aliens had not touched for years, yet mistrust hung heavy in the air. No one expected hope to come from the smallest being in the universe. On a hidden research station near the edge of Orion's belt, something strange was happening. The place was secret, known only to a few scientists from both species. They were working on something forbidden, a new beginning. Days turned into weeks as they waited for the right moment. And one silent night, it finally came. A child was born, not human, not alien, but both. Her skin had a shifting glow, sometimes pale like moonlight, sometimes tinted blue like the alien sky. Her eyes opened too early, wide and bright, noticing everything. When the scientists looked at her, they forgot the years of hate that filled their hearts. They saw something soft, something alive, something different. They named her Lyra, after an ancient constellation known to both races. Lyra did not cry like other babies. Instead, she made a humming sound, almost like singing. Her heartbeat pulsed in gentle waves that made machines flicker and walls tremble softly. Nobody knew what she was or what she could become, but deep inside, they all felt it. The galaxy had changed forever. For months, Lyra grew faster than anyone expected. She could speak strange words that had never been taught, sometimes human, sometimes alien. Yet everyone could understand her. Her laughter could calm angry men. Her touch could stop machines from breaking. To some, it felt like a miracle. To others, a threat. Words slowly leaked beyond the station walls. Both sides, human generals and alien warlords, heard whispers of the hybrid child. Many believed she could be the weapon that ends the war. Others said she was a mistake that should never have lived. The peace scientists had built was breaking apart under fear. One morning, alarms screamed through the station. The lights flashed red. Voices echoed down long metal halls. An alien inspection team had arrived without warning. They demanded to see the child. Saying it was for safety, the human scientists refused, guarding Lyra with their own lives, but fire began to rise before words could cool it. Inside the nursery, Lyra sat on the floor, staring at the chaos through the glass, her small hands pressed against the window as people shouted. Some ran, some hid, others fought, and all for her. The air filled with smoke and fear. Then, just as the door burst open, a bright light filled the room. The cameras caught only a flash white. Soft, endless. When it faded, Lyra was gone. All that remained was her tiny blanket and a voice on the recording. Soft and clear, she said 4 words that no one could forget. "I will come back." The aliens and humans blamed each other. As always, each side claimed the other had stolen the child. But no ship matched her disappearance. No trail showed her leaving the station. It was as if she had been pulled into the stars themselves. The war grew hot again, fueled by the mystery of the missing child. Years passed, and the story became legend. Children whispered her name before sleep. Soldiers painted her symbol on their helmets for luck. Scholars called her the child between stars, saying she would return one day. A bridge between peace and destruction, between heart and machine. Some said they saw a small light moving through deep space, neither star nor ship. Some said they heard strange humming when near a dying planet. And others said, in dreams, a glowing child spoke to them. Her voice soft but strong, saying only, "Do not fight." Not again. Captain Varric, leader of the alien fleet that once destroyed Earth's moon base, heard those same words one night. Alone in the darkness of his ship, he had seen too much war. Too many dead stars. When he woke, cold sweat on his skin. He whispered back, "If you are real, come find me," somewhere beyond his world. Light moved, tiny, shining, alive. The child between stars was not gone. She was only waiting, and soon. The galaxy would remember her name again. Cold winds moved through the broken halls of an old moonbase. The place was silent except for the soft hum of distant engines. Alien soldiers walked slowly down the ruins, their glowing armor lighting up the dust. They had come searching for human survivors, but instead they found something else. A soft voice, faint like the echo of a dream, whispered through the air. The commander stopped, his 4 eyes shifting with suspicion. Did anyone speak? He asked, but no one answered. The soldiers raised their weapons, scanning each corner carefully. And then they saw her, a small figure, sitting in the middle of a cracked floor, her tiny hands tracing shapes in the dust. She looked up, her eyes shining silver, a strange mix of human softness and alien glow. The soldiers froze, not because of fear, but confusion. They had seen countless things in this war, but never a child like her. She tilted her head, watching them quietly. "Are you here to fight?" she asked, her voice calm but old. The commander stepped forward, lowering his weapon. "No, child," he said softly. "We came to find what was lost." She smiled faintly, as if knowing he spoke half-truths. Her clothes were torn, but her skin had no wounds. Around her, machines that should have been dead for years were glowing faintly. The base had been destroyed long ago, yet lights flickered near her presence. She was keeping it alive somehow, without knowing. The commander felt something pulling inside his chest, something strange and human. They took her back to the fleet, traveling through the dark paths between stars. The soldiers whispered among themselves, calling her the Ghost Girl. No one could explain how she survived in the ruins. Alone, without oxygen or food, the medical scans showed energy pulsing inside her. Part human DNA, part alien symbiotic core. Some feared her, others wanted to protect her. But all were curious. When the ship entered orbit near Varek's command cruiser, they sent a report. Small life form found, hybrid origin, requesting orders. Varek studied the screen, his heart's beating slow. A child that matched the rumors from years ago, the one called Lyra. He ordered her to be brought aboard immediately. The doors of the command room slid open, and silence fell. Lyra walked inside, small but confident, eyes scanning everything. Varek felt like she was looking through him. Not at him. He tried to speak, but she spoke first. "You dreamed of me," she said simply. And his breath caught. He remembered the whispers, the light in his dreams, the words, "Do not fight." Every part of him wanted to deny it. But her presence was too real. The guards shifted uneasily. Sensing something beyond logic, she stepped closer, her fingers brushing the metal table. Instantly it glowed warm. "What are you, child?" he asked finally, her head tilted again. "Smile soft but knowing. I am both," she said. "And neither." Varek stared, unsure whether to fear her or fall to his knees. The old story said the bridge child would return, born of both worlds, and now she stood before him. Breathing, fragile, powerful. Days passed aboard the alien warship, and strange things began to happen. The engines ran smoother, the crew felt calmer, and no fights broke out. Even food grew fresher in the storage rooms, small miracles no one could explain. Lyra spent her time watching the stars from the wide glass window of the upper deck. Sometimes she spoke to the stars as if they were friends, whispering names no one knew. Varek started keeping watch from a distance. He didn't trust Izali, yet he couldn't stop thinking about her. Her presence reminded him of something long forgotten: peace. Every war he had fought suddenly felt heavier, less clear. He wondered if this child was his punishment or redemption. One night, alarms triggered again, red light filling the ship. A sudden burst of unknown energy came from Lyra's room. When Varek rushed inside, he saw her floating above the floor. Eyes wide open, but glowing silver, her voice echoed through the walls. Soft but powerful. "Two worlds beating, one heart breaking," she whispered. The screens around her showed flashes, human fleets burning, alien cities falling. Her tears shimmered like stars in zero gravity. Then the power vanished, and she fell gently into Varrok's arms. Unconscious but breathing, the medical team ran tests but found nothing wrong. Only one thing stood out. She was growing stronger, not weaker. After that night, she began to speak strange truths to the crew. "Do not hate what you do not understand," she told one soldier. "Forgive the past, or you will live inside it forever," she said to another. Each person she spoke to changed, became softer, kinder. Even Varrok, the warlord who once destroyed planets, began to question his orders. The message spread quietly across the fleet. Some said the war was cursed from the moment they found her. Others said they were blessed, that she was the key to ending centuries of blood. Varrok didn't believe in legends, but as he watched her sleep under the soft glow of alien starlight, he knew deep inside that the war would never be the same again. Somewhere in the dark, the galaxy was listening, and the child between stars had taken her first step toward destiny. Not with soldiers, not with machines, but with the quiet power of a heartbeat. One that belonged to both worlds, yet to neither. The war was changing, and so were they. Days turned into weeks aboard the alien warship. The crew had stopped calling her the Ghost Girl and started calling her the Child. Lyra walked through the corridors like a soft light in a place built for war. Wherever she went, silence followed, and calmness spread like breath after a storm. But peace, even a small one, never stays forever in a galaxy built on fear. Outside the ship, the war still lived. Humans gathered fleets near the border systems. Aliens prepared new weapons deep in their nebula factories. Both sides grew restless as rumors of the hybrid spread again. Whispers turned to orders. And soon both worlds were searching for the same thing: her. In secret meetings, generals spoke her name like a spell. "The Child can end this war," one said. "She must belong to us." "No," said another. "She's proof they will destroy us all." Fear works faster than truth. And before the week ended, fleets were on the move. The galaxy's silent stars began to remember the sound of war. On the alien warship, Captain Varrok stood alone in his command room. He watched the stars outside the window, each one burning like a forgotten promise. He had started writing messages to his high command, but deleted them every night. How could he explain that the child they feared was the only thing keeping his crew alive? Lyra was not a weapon. She was something no one could measure. One moment she would be laughing with the engineers. The next she would stand still, whispering words no one understood. Sometimes she spoke in voices that were not her own, as if the universe itself spoke through her tiny chest. It frightened Varrok, but it also filled him with awe he had never known. One morning, Lyra stared at the stars through the deck glass. Varrok joined her quietly, his tall shadow stretching beside her small one. She pointed at a burning planet far ahead, its surface turning red from new battles. "Humans fight again," she said softly, "and aliens too." Her voice was calm, but her eyes shimmered with hidden pain. "Why do they fight?" she asked him. Varrok hesitated, wondering how to explain hate to a child who knew love by instinct. "Because they fear what they do not understand," he said at last. Lyra turned to him, shaking her head slowly. "Then they will never stop," she whispered, and walked away. That night, the ship's communication systems came alive with chaos. Human ships had entered alien space, looking for her. The council demanded she be handed over. They said she was human property, an experiment gone wrong. The alien ministers agreed in secret, fearing the war would start again if they refused. Varrok read the message in silence and crushed the datapad in his fist. He looked at Lyra asleep under a blanket of starlight. She breathed softly, her chest glowing faintly with that strange pulse that no scanner could read. He made his choice before the dawn cycle. He would not let either side use her as a weapon. Varek and his crew turned off the ship's beacons and hid inside the storm rings of a gas giant. For 3 days they drifted, unseen and unheard, surrounded by thunder that no life could live through. Yet Lyra stood on the deck each day, her face calm, humming an old lullaby. She didn't ask why they were hiding, she already knew. Even the storms seemed to move around her like respectful guards, but secrets can't stay buried forever. A human spy ship traced the energy she carried and found them. It sent a message: return the hybrid or be destroyed. Varek ordered the ship to remain silent. But Lyra stepped forward. Her eyes glowed brighter than the storm outside. She walked past the crew and whispered, "They are coming because they are afraid." Her voice was soft. But every console began to shake, outside. Lightning bent itself into shapes, faces, hands, voices. The crew saw flashes of both human and alien memories. Children, laughter, war, death, and love. When the lights faded, Lyra collapsed, but her energy wave had knocked out the spy ship completely. Varek lifted her in his arms, whispering her name again and again. She opened her eyes weakly and said, "Don't let them fight because of me." Varek froze, feeling something break inside his chest. He looked at the fallen spy ship spinning in silence below. And for the first time in his long life, he prayed when she slept again. Her dreams reached the stars, across both galaxies. People began to feel strange calmness. Soldiers in trenches paused. Children on ruined worlds looked at the sky and saw a faint silver glow. Some said angels, others said radiation. But those who knew the truth whispered only one word, Lyra, in that moment. The war that had lasted for centuries slowed for a heartbeat, not because of fear or force, but because of a child who carried both worlds inside her heart and somewhere deep within her dreams. A voice older than time whispered back, "The galaxy will know your name." War Child, and the stars themselves seemed to listen. Asterisk, the warship moved through quiet space, its metal skin painted silver by distant suns. After weeks of hiding, the crew had stopped fearing the silence. They had grown used to the strange calm that followed Lyra wherever she went. Even the engines, once restless and loud, now hummed like a heartbeat in sleep. But peace never came without a question. And Lyra was the biggest question of all. She walked through the ship barefoot, her small feet whispering against the cold floor. The soldiers who once refused to look at her now smiled when she passed. They brought her fruits from alien gardens, old human books, little gifts made from scrap metal. She thanked them all with a gentle nod, never asking for more. Her presence felt like sunlight trapped inside a cold machine. Captain Varek watched her every day, his mind torn between wonder and fear. He had spent half his life destroying in the name of order. But now, this small hybrid child made him question everything. When she smiled, he felt the weight of his past wars pressing heavier on his back. He began to see the faces of those he had burned away, both human and alien alike. One morning, the crew found her sitting in the engine hall. Surrounded by blue light, a broken power core lay beside her. Its circuits melted from overuse. Without tools or machines, she placed her hands on it, softly humming that same strange tune that seemed to belong to the stars themselves. Before their eyes, the broken metal began to move, reconnecting on its own. The chief engineer dropped his tablet, speechless. Varek entered the room as the hum grew brighter. The air vibrated with energy. But it didn't burn, it healed when the light faded. The once dead core hummed again, alive. Whole, new, Lyra smiled, her eyes half closed, and whispered. It only needed kindness. Those words spread through the ship faster than any order could. Kindness, the soldiers said to each other, as if it were a new command for generations. They had been trained to survive through strength. Now this child spoke of care as if it were more powerful than any laser cannon. And somehow they believed her. she began visiting the sickbay where injured soldiers lay. Alien warriors with missing limbs. Human engineers with burnt hands. She never promised miracles. Yet strange recoveries followed her visit. She would place her hands on their wounds, singing softly in a voice that mixed two languages. Pain faded faster, fears melted away, and people began to dream clearly again. Varrock watched from the doorway one day as Lyra touched a dying alien soldier's forehead. The soldier had been one of his oldest fighters, a man of rage and silence. The child whispered something too quiet to hear. And slowly the man smiled before he went still. Not dead, asleep peacefully for the first time in years. Varrock's fists trembled, not in anger, but in the slow crumble of the wall around his heart later. Varrock asked her a question he had never asked anyone before. "Why do you care for us?" He said, voice heavy, "We began this war. We make monsters out of peace." Lyra looked up at him. Her silver eyes filled with stars that weren't seen by humans or aliens. "You call yourselves monsters," she said. "But even monsters need to be taught how to love." There was no blame in her tone, only sadness so deep it pierced silence itself. The next day, she walked among the training soldiers. They were practicing combat drills, strikes and defense moves. Lyra stopped them and said, "Show me what you fight for." No one answered. They only looked at each other, unsure. She lifted her hands and spoke softly. "Then let me show you what peace looks like." In a moment, the training floor shimmered with holographic light. She created scenes, families reunited, planets turning green again. She showed children from both races playing near crystal rivers without fear. When the vision ended, no one spoke. Even hardened warriors felt something they hadn't in years: hope. Night came early that day as the ship drifted near a red dwarf star. Lyra sat alone in the observation room, the reflection of stars covering her face. Varrock joined her again, quiet as always. "You taught them more than any commander ever could," he said softly. She shook her head, replying, "I did not teach them. I reminded them," before she could say more. The alarm lights flashed once, then stopped. No sound. No voice, just a signal, faint but serious. A new fleet was moving toward them, human signatures. Dozens of warships. Lyra stood, her calm eyes shifting toward the stars. Her expression didn't change, but the warmth around her grew colder, sharper. "They come for me again," she said quietly, her voice carrying something far older than fear. Varrock looked at her, understanding without words what she was about to do. "Their hearts still hurt," she whispered. "They need more lessons." She turned to leave, and her faint humming filled the hallways again. The soldiers listened in silence, their weapons. Far beyond the borders of known space, shadows began to move, where light from stars could not reach. Silence had its own language, and in that silence, powerful minds whispered about the child. Some called her a miracle, others called her a threat. But to the people in the hidden councils of war, Lyra was only one thing: an opportunity. On planets where soldiers had never known peace, secret meetings began. Human generals sat behind dark glass, alien ministers cloaked in silver mist. They spoke different languages but shared one desire: the hybrid, they said quietly, must be controlled. Control was easier than understanding, easier than change. Rumors grew into plans, and plans turned into missions. They called it Project Silence. Its goal was not to kill Lyra, but to use her. If they could harness her energy, the strange pulse that healed machines and men, they could rebuild the galaxy in their own image. Ruled by fear, but wrapped in peace. Meanwhile, Lyra still lived aboard Captain Varrock's warship. To the crew, she was no longer a guest or a mystery. She was family. She ate with them, worked beside them, told stories from forgotten human songs. They laughed more in months with her than they had in years of war. Even the ship itself seemed to move gentler through space, like it knew its pilot carried a heart. But Varric could feel the tremble in the wind of destiny. His sensors caught strange codes and communication streams. Hidden under friendly signals, every day new ships passed too near to their course. Asking too few questions, he knew something was coming. Something big, and in his gut. He knew it was not fate, it was a hunt one night. Stars around them flickered and died. The crew looked out the viewing decks in fear. From the dark came ships with no markings, silent and cloaked. "Ghost Fleet," whispered the communications officer, voice low. These were machines built for one purpose, secret capture. Varric ordered shields up, but Lyra's voice stopped him. She stood barefoot beside his chair, her eyes glowing faint blue. "No shooting," she said softly. "They don't want death. They want control." Varric stared at her, his fists tight. "And what if control fails?" he asked. Lyra looked at him sadly. "Then they will break themselves trying." The Ghost Fleet sent a message, one in both human and alien code. It said only 5 words: "Return the hybrid, or burn." Varric's crew looked to him, waiting, hope and fear tangled in their hearts. He turned slowly and said, "We do not surrender stars born from light." And then the ship plunged into the storm fields of Tyros 9. A swirling world of thunder and gas inside the storm. Gravity twisted and lighting danced like dragons. The ship rocked, alarms screamed, metal groaned under pressure. Yet Lyra stood calm in the center of the bridge, whispering words no one understood. Every strike of lightning bent away, each storm path curved open. Even chaos listened when she spoke. The Ghost Fleet followed, weapons hot. But everything they launched dissolved into the clouds. "Captain," called the navigator. "They're closing in." Varric looked to Lyra. Knowing she was the only one who could end this, her small hands lifted, glowing bright as a small sun, and she said, "They will not stop unless I show them their own hearts." Her light spread through the storm. Across every enemy screen, in an instant, the pilots of the Ghost Fleet saw visions. Not of weapons or glory, but of the people they once loved. A father's voice, a friend's laugh, a child's face they had forgotten through years of steel and war. One by one, they froze, their ships drifting quiet. Filled with tears and memories, Lyra fell to her knees, her body shaking as if the universe had passed through her. Varric caught her, holding her close, the air still bright from her power. The sensors went clear, no more hostiles. Only drifting ships surrounded by silence. Her voice came weak but calm. "The heart remembers before it destroys." And then she fainted completely, her glow fading into darkness. When the fleet reached a quiet orbit again, Varric sent no message to anyone. He ordered all records of the chase deleted, all data wiped clean. He looked around the silent bridge, his face caught between sorrow and pride. He knew the councils would not stop, the shadows would return. But now he also knew one thing: the child could fight without killing. That night, as Lyra slept in the medbay, the stars outside seemed closer. Varric whispered to the machine walls, as if the universe could hear him. "If they come again," he said slowly, "let them see what real courage looks like." And somewhere deep inside the ship, the engines pulsed once, like a heartbeat in reply. The shadow plan had failed for now, but the war for Lyra's fate had only just begun. The galaxy had gone quiet again, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the heavy pause that comes before thunder, before truth. Both the human alliance and the alien dominion were watching. Their ships stood on the edge of battle lines, engines silent but ready. And in the middle of that endless tension drifted one small ship, Varrac's, carrying Lyra. She was older now, her face still young but her eyes deep with starlight. The power inside her grew each day, glowing softly beneath her skin. Sometimes when she spoke, walls hummed, lights dimmed, and air seemed to listen. The crew no longer feared her light, they followed it, because wherever she stood, Chaos slowed and hearts softened, even if only for a moment. Word of her survival had spread beyond any secret. Every fleet wanted her, every leader feared her, and every world wished she was theirs. But Lyra's wish was different. She wanted them to meet. Not fight, to speak, she said, not shout, and somehow she convinced Captain Varek to deliver her message to both sides. It took months to arrange. Yet no one believed it would actually happen when the day came. Two fleets stood face to face above a neutral moon. Dreadnoughts, carriers, cruisers, enough firepower to erase a planet, but none fired. Because the one who asked for peace had asked them all to wait. And they obeyed, if only to see what would happen next. Lyra walked into the great meeting hall built on the moon's surface. The room was half metal, half stone, a mix of both cultures. Humans filled one side, aliens the other, their flags frozen under artificial light. Varek stood behind her, silent as a shadow. Everyone expected chaos, but when she spoke, the universe seemed to lean closer. "You built all this to protect yourselves," she said, pointing at the high walls. "And now no one can reach anyone," she added quietly. Her voice echoed, calm but sharp enough to cut through pride. One of the human admirals stood, his silver uniform glowing. "You are an experiment. A mistake that should never have existed," he shouted. The alien general slammed his clawed hand on the table. "And yet she saved your fleets." Instant heat filled the room. Words turned into fire, but before anger could rise higher, Lyra raised her hand, and lights flickered. The air itself felt heavy, like gravity thickening with emotion. "I have lived in both your hearts," she said softly. "You both dream of peace. But build walls of fire." At that moment, everything changed. The floor beneath them glowed as her light spread again. The humans saw flashes of alien memories, homes, families, laughter, skies full of glass birds. The aliens saw human dreams, oceans, music, small children running in rain. Gasps filled the hall, because for the first time, they saw life as the other did, not as the enemy. "This is what I see," Lyra whispered. "Not monsters, not rivals. Just two sides of the same song." But before anyone could react, the alarms went red. Outside, shadow ships emerged, machines from Project Silence. Rebuilt and furious, no allegiance, no mercy. Just cold obedience to a dead plan. The sky filled with fire once again as both fleets turned their guns outward. Lyra ran to the window, watching beams of light cut through the clouds. "Stop," she cried. "Don't fight." "Not again." Her words broke through the cums like lightning, but the shadows did not hear. They were not alive to listen, only built to destroy. So she did what no one else could. She walked into the light. Varek shouted for her, but she was already gone outside. Floating in the dark above the moon, her body glowed brighter than the ship's weapons. She spread her arms, her voice reaching through radio. Metal and heart alike. "Enough," she whispered. And everything stopped. Bullets, bombs, engines, all frozen mid-air. The shadow fleet trembled as blue light erupted from her chest, spreading without heat. For a moment, every soul, human and alien, heard the same heartbeat, fast, pure, young and old at once. The machines cracked like ice under sun, burning not in flame but in memory. They melted into harmless dust drifting across starlight. Lyra's light dimmed, and she fell gently toward the moon's surface. Varek caught her as she landed, kneeling beside her glowing form. Her breath was faint, her eyes half open, still holding that calm smile. "Did they stop?" she whispered weakly. And he nodded, unable to speak. She smiled again. "Then the lesson is learned." And with one last breath, she closed her eyes, her body turning into soft waves of silver dust. Every ship turned silent across the sky, guns cooling, hearts burning. No one spoke for a long time, not a soldier, not a captain, not a world. Varek looked up. tears running through the scars of his face. For the first time in history, both human and alien ships lowered their flags together, as the dust of the child between stars spread into the wind, lighting every corner of darkness. And in that light, the galaxy saw itself clearly for the first time. Not divided, not broken, but waiting to become whole. Lyra's voice echoed one last time, soft as the hum of a distant sun. The galaxy breathed again, slow and careful, like someone waking from a long nightmare. The great fleets that once filled the skies now drifted quietly in orbit. No more orders of attack, no more flashing lights or burning worlds. Only silence, deep, unfamiliar, and fragile. The silence left behind by the child who had turned war into memory. Her name, once whispered in secret halls, was now spoken with reverence. Lyra, the bridge between worlds. The child between stars. She was gone, yet her light still shimmered across the edges of space. In every signal, in every pulse of power, there was a trace of her voice, soft, guiding. Alive in the air, though her body had become starlight. Years passed, and the stories grew. Some said she became part of the cosmic energy that binds all things. Others believed she was reborn in another world, waiting to return. But for those who saw her, who stood under her glow, there was no myth, only truth. They had seen peace bloom in the heart of war, and they carried it with them. Captain Varric, older and scarred, left the military after that final battle. He refused medals, refused ceremonies, and chose to live on a small planet near the neutral zone. No soldiers, no commands. Just fields of silver grass and a single home built from ship scrap. But even there, he could not escape her memory. Each night, when the twin moons rose, the horizon shimmered faintly, the same silver hue as Lyra's light. Sometimes children from nearby colonies came to listen to him. They called him the keeper of the bridge, though he laughed quietly whenever they did. He never told them much, only small stories. Simple and warm, about a girl who could sing to machines, about a smile that stopped armies, and about love that could turn hate into dust. Yet the galaxy was changing again. Not back to war, but forward to understanding. Humans and aliens began to share worlds, to build together instead of apart. The great walls of politics fell slowly, one by one. They called the new peace network the Lyra Accord. A promise never to forget her lesson. Every treaty, every meeting, began with her words engraved in stone. Do not fight to protect peace. Protect peace to end the fight, they read. Simple words, yet heavier than any weapon ever built. And in that new age of rebuilding, even enemies found comfort in the sound of those words. Where once there had been fire, now there were gardens. Where there had been silence, now there was song one evening. On the anniversary of the great meeting, Varric climbed a small hill behind his home. He carried an old piece of metal, part of the warship they once shared. He placed it into the ground and pressed his hand against it. Closing his eyes, the wind around him moved gently, glowing with faint light, and for a heartbeat, he heard her voice again. "Thank you, Captain," it said, as soft as a child whispering through time. He opened his eyes and saw a tree growing where the metal had been buried. Its leaves shimmered silver blue, and from its core pulsed a soft rhythm, like a heartbeat. He smiled through wet eyes, whispering, "You kept your promise." The stars above seemed to shimmer brighter, as if they too were listening. Over the next decades, more trees like that began to appear across the galaxy. No one planted them, yet they grew wherever humans and aliens worked side by side. Their light was gentle, spreading warmth even into the coldest cities. Scientists could not explain them. Priests called them blessings. But everyone knew their name, Lyra trees. Born from peace, not soil, generations later. Children learned about the war as if it were ancient myth. They studied the child who had stopped the fire and called her the bridge. They didn't fear the old stories, they honored them. Because they understood something the old world had forgotten. Unity is stronger than fear. And sometimes, it takes one small voice to remind the universe of its own heart. Varek's home became a quiet shrine. Surrounded by glowing trees and soft humming wind, when he grew too old to rise, he would listen to that hum and smile. He would whisper, "She is still here," before closing his eyes for another night. And when he finally left this world, the stars themselves flickered, one long bright pulse. Some said it was the universe remembering him. Others said it was her welcoming him home centuries later. Travelers passing through Orion's belt could see the glow from far away. A vast formation of stars shaped like two hands joined together. Heart between them, they called it the Bridge constellation. And no matter who looked upon it, one truth echoed clearly, that long ago, one small child taught the greatest lesson of all time. That love could travel further than light, and peace could be louder than war.